Have you ever had a patient come in and say, I read about this detox. What do you think? Now, if you're nodding along, you're not alone. The word detox is everywhere, and patients are desperate for a reset. But here's the thing. Most detox diets aren't just unnecessary. They can actually backfire in ways that hurt your patient's health. I'm Colleen, a PA, dietitian, and your nutrition mentor. Welcome to the Exam Room Nutrition Podcast, your guide to giving better nutrition advice. Today, we're diving into the truth about detoxes with a special guest who's breaking it all down, Leonila Campos. She's a bilingual registered dietitian who's passionate about helping individuals prevent prediabetes through balanced nutrition tailored to their needs. She's also the founder and owner of Fueled by Leo Incorporated, a nutrition consulting company. In this episode, we're tackling questions you'll definitely want to be ready for, like how does the body naturally detoxify itself without any fancy teas or expensive cleanses? What red flags should make you cautious when a patient tells you they're doing a liquid detox? And how can you reframe the conversation, turning a patient's desire for a detox into an opportunity to boost gut health, fiber intake, and hydration in a sustainable way? Leo also shares the sneaky risks detox diets pose for patients with diabetes or a history of disordered eating, and how you can spot them early. Plus, we're flipping the script on what a real detox could look like. Think less about celery juice and more about stress management, sleep hygiene, and smart sugar swaps. And stick around till the end for a killer free resource. Now, before we jump into the episode, I wanted to share a quick resource with you. If you've ever felt frustrated by the lack of real-world nutrition education or wished you had more support guiding patients through weight loss, I made the Obesity Medicine Nutrition course just for you. It's self-paced, CME and CPEU approved, and it's packed with expert-led modules, patient-ready tools, and a supportive community. You can join the waitlist now at examroomnutrition.com/course or just hit the link in the show notes below. All right, now grab your coffee, get comfy, and enjoy my conversation with Leonila. Welcome to the show. I am so excited to have this conversation. Thanks so much for jumping on and having this chat with me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Colleen, for having me. I'm excited.
Oh, it's such an important topic. Everyone is like, oh, I need a detox. I need a fresh start. I need to kind of restart my system. And so as providers, we hear patients talk about this and ask us about it all the time. So first of all, I think it's really important to understand exactly what is a detox diet and make sure that we are understanding and defining it the same way. So how would you define what a detox diet is?
The word detox commonly refers to cleansing the body of toxins, right? Through diets, juices, teas, or fasting regimens. And that's what you're going to see pretty much in social media, on the internet.
I think that's what majority of us do think about. I've seen detoxes for all kinds of things, but a lot of the wording is like a cleanse is sometimes used and thrown in there. What are some of the biggest misconceptions that patients have about going on a detox diet?
It usually comes to like when we're trying to lose weight, right? Or as you mentioned, cleanse our bodies, which our bodies are amazing and they already have, and I'm sure we're going to go into these, but they already do that for us. So we don't have to cleanse our bodies, right? They do it for us already. And usually, again, it really comes to like them wanting to lose weight, seeing that rapid change, like instant gratification. These big companies do such a good job with marketing. They really go into your pain points, right? Like, this is what you need. And they use like remove all toxins, or it's a miracle cleanse, or your body needs to get rid of it. Like, you shouldn't have that. And then they give all these pain points. And so you're like, that is me. Like, this is what I need.
Okay, so you mentioned it briefly, but I really wanted to get into exactly how our body naturally detoxifies, because this is definitely a great educational piece, I think, for providers to explain to patients, because we could save them tons of money, probably hundreds of dollars, maybe even thousands, if they would learn and understand the biology and what the processes are that our bodies are naturally cleansing and detoxifying without the need of those products.
So our body has already its own natural detoxifying system. It involves our liver, our kidneys, our lungs, our skin, and our lymphatic system. Unless if you have some kind of health condition that maybe one of those organs is not working properly. But we already have all these systems that are doing this job for us. And so let's take the example of the liver and the kidneys in the role of detoxifying. The liver filters toxins from the blood. It metabolizes drugs and converts harmful substances into excretable compounds. That's one of the jobs of the liver. Then our kidneys regulate fluid balance and excrete waste through urine. Already those two main organs are doing the detoxification for our bodies. And then, of course, then it comes in our skin. That's like the first barrier for toxins and harmful pathogens. And then we have our lungs, right? As we inhale our oxygen and exhale our carbon dioxide. And our lymphatic system that helps to fight those pathogens. So we have this amazing synchronized system, right, that communicates all the time and is doing this job for us. We don't need something else to do it, right, for us, because we already have something doing it 24/7. It doesn't stop.
And I think having that explanation for patients will be really, really helpful because they might not even consider their skin as like a detoxifier and the liver. People kind of forget about their liver. So are there certain ingredients or foods that can actually support any of those systems for detoxification?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I like to emphasize is that there's not a single ingredient that is going to support our organs, but it is a combination of things, right? A combination of foods and nutrients that are going to support all our detoxifying organs. Like, for example, glutathione that is found in broccoli, avocados, and spinach, that supports liver function. Or fiber coming from all our plant sources, fruits, vegetables, whole grains. They bind toxins and support excretion when we have a bowel movement. Antioxidants, right, found in berries, green tea, and dark leafy greens, they combat oxidative stress, protect our cell walls. But when we think about, okay, how are these compounds, right, how are these nutrients going to work together? We cannot just focus, let me just eat all berries, right, or all leafy greens, because it's a combination of all those foods that we need to be able to support our organs.
So I want to linger here a little bit and just kind of focus on fiber and hydration, right? Because anytime I talk about fiber and most dietitians, we are all like, oh, but don't forget, you need to be hydrated. So let's linger here and just unpack exactly how do those two, fiber and hydration, support the body's detox systems.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, the kidneys are a major detoxifying organ. Our kidneys need water. Our entire bodies need water, right? We're pretty much made out of water. And water not only transports nutrients, those nutrients that we need for our detoxifying organs, it helps our cells at a cellular level, but it also helps our kidneys to be able to get rid of those toxins through the urine. So if we're not drinking enough water, I usually just give a general recommendation, unless if there are fluid restrictions for whatever reason, at least 64 ounces of water. Like, let's just work on that. The majority of my clients, when they come to me, are only doing one water bottle, 17 ounces. And okay, let's focus on increasing that to one extra water bottle until we get to at least 64 ounces. The needs are really going to depend, right, on each person, their activity level, and what's happening. But if we can get at least 64 ounces of water to help our kidneys to continue to have that filtration job. Fiber plays a huge role, again, in absorbing those toxins. I usually give the analogy of fiber as a sponge. That sponge is so essential that I've been able to clean our digestive system, absorb those toxins, absorb some of the cholesterol and the sugar, and we can get rid of it through the stool. But more importantly, to be able to have regular, normal bowel movements, or we're not struggling to use the restroom. Because if that is the case, then that also plays a role in being able to detoxify our system, because we're not having regular bowel movements.
I want to linger here a little bit, and just because we talked about bowel movements, do you think that's an important question? Maybe if the patient is interested in detoxing, and is that a great question that a provider could find out to make sure that their natural detox system is in tip-top shape?
I think it's definitely a question that we should ask. How are your bowel movements? How often are you using the restroom? What is normal for you? And then if they say, oh, I have every other day, or I have constipation, or I struggle to go, I think that's definitely a great opportunity to provide some feedback and say, hey, I know you're wanting to, or you're thinking about a detox cleanse or tea. How about if we focus on optimizing your gut health, right? By increasing your fiber. And people can see a huge change there once they start doing that. And there's many benefits there. We'll focus on that.
Oh, I love that shift in mindset. That's a great way to really switch what the patient comes in focusing on and saying, oh, hey, doc, what do you think about this celery juice cleanse? And really just not even giving them a yes or no answer, but then just redirecting and saying, like, how are your bowel movements? If they are constipated, that's an easy fix for you and something that they can easily jump on, and they won't even need to do that cleanse. So I think that's a really valuable point. Now, I'm curious to see if you've seen any harm rather than help that these like liquid diets, specifically these liquid detox diets, can pose on our health.
Yeah. So when we think about more of these harsh detoxes or like only have these liquid or only have these teas, a lot of the times they cause diarrhea, either because there's a laxative effect or there's so much pulling of liquids into the gut to be able to like quote unquote cleanse you. And so if we're coming into it, we're not already drinking water, right? So that you can get dehydrated quite quickly. And that is going to put your kidneys at a risk. And so now we're definitely not helping our detoxifying organs because we're affecting our kidneys. Or if we take something that affects the liver, again, we have to keep in mind that anything that we eat and anything that we intake is going to go through these detoxifying organs, your liver being one of them. And so if you're drinking something that it's affecting your liver directly, now you're also affecting that main organ, right, to be able to detoxify that. So there is a lot of risk when we think about that. There's a risk of electrolyte imbalances, which is also going to affect your kidneys, but it could also affect your heart if there is imbalances in potassium as well as calcium. So there is definitely a risk there. If the cleanse is prolonged, like, I don't know, several weeks, now we have an issue of not getting enough nutrients, right? Nutrient deficiencies, our metabolism slowing down, right? Because we're not nourishing our bodies properly. There is more risk there, right? That when we think about that, and the person might be happy, right? Because, oh, I'm seeing some weight loss, essentially, if that is the reason why. But at what cost, right? Like, is this really something that we want to do?
Yeah. I'm also thinking about two different types of patients that I would be very concerned with. One would be someone with diabetes who maybe is going on like a juice cleanse. I've had plenty of people who've done like a pineapple juice or like just a straight juice cleanse, and they might not understand the effect that that's going to have on their blood sugars. And then the other one is individuals who either have or are struggling with disordered eating, because I find that this is very restrictive for them. So I'm curious as to your thoughts on that and how we might educate those patients as to the harms and risks for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Specifically for our patients that have glucose issues, you can definitely see that huge change in blood sugars. And either way, if we're having low blood sugars or high blood sugars, you're still going to need to stay hydrated, right? Which we already know that one of the main reasons of kidney failure is uncontrolled blood sugars. So now you're also affecting your kidneys there. On top, I'm sure just having those ups and downs, that's not going to make you feel good, right? Like I can't imagine having that roller coaster in your blood sugars. So that can definitely be dangerous. And so if you get to a level where your blood sugars are really high or really low, that can definitely lead to a hospitalization. And then someone that has an eating disorder or issues, right, with disordered eating, it's such a restrictive and deprivation way of doing something that is absolutely not helping. It's probably causing more harm because it's essentially just intaking something that is liquid in such a low calorie, right? So it is definitely such a sensitive topic and something that can be definitely dangerous when we really look into it. And it's almost frustrating to see the mass marketing that it has because it can really, really cause some damage.
Now, what about the patients who they have maybe that food guilt or shame after they have indulged? Maybe it's a girls' weekend or you went out on a bachelor party and you drank and ate too much and you're coming back and you're feeling horrible about yourself for overindulging and they feel that they need to detox. What would you say to that patient?
What I usually do is I acknowledge their emotions and their feelings. Oftentimes, the reasons why we are feeling this way, the reasons why we have this guilt is because there might be some fighting history, right? Like, oh man, I was following these and then I fell off the wagon, right? Like, I'm bad. The first things that I work with my clients is we have to move away from putting food into categories. This is bad food. This is good food. Because most of the times, the foods that we enjoy and the foods that we look forward to having are going to be in the bad category. And so we're already setting ourselves for failure. And so when we don't put food into categories, we already eliminate that feeling. But also, if that is the case, we are human, right? And life is going to happen. And so acknowledging that and saying, hey, these things are going to happen. But let's see what were the positives about that. Oh, you had a great time. Amazing. Right? You went out with your friends and that reduced your stress. Wonderful. What are some of the things that we can work on for these next few weeks? What are some of your goals in terms of your nutrition? Or what are some of the foods that you want to bring back in? I think when we direct that and not categorizing food or saying, yeah, I think you should have that detox, because it's not about that specific episode. It's really creating these strong habits that when that does happen, we can say, hey, I had a fun weekend. Yes, maybe I ate more of these foods that I'm not used to eating, but I'm going to start introducing or reintroducing the wholesome foods that I know that are going to give me the energy that I need, that are going to support my organs. I'm going to stay hydrated because I know that's what my body needs right now. So I think when we focus on that positive aspect of it, we really create and we really give our clients these strong skills to be able to use them anytime, anywhere.
Yep. I love reframing things. And I think as dietitians, we can reclaim the word detox, because I feel as though as a society, it sort of has become this negative thing because it is used in such a negative way. So I would love to just have a conversation on a few things that you think are positive, quote, detoxes. And I'm also thinking of like non-food things, right? Like look at the positive things that happen when we detox from social media or just from really unhealthy, unhelpful influencers and we stop following them so they don't show up on our feed, right? That's like a lot of positive mental health detoxing. So I'm curious as to what types of foods or even just lifestyle things do you encourage patients to maybe quote detox from their life or just eat less of is really essentially what I'm getting at.
I start with the basics, nutrition basics. Let's talk about the 5 food groups and let's see how we can incorporate, how can we add more of these foods into the meals that you already eat. When we do that, there is not space essentially for more of our processed foods, for more of the other foods that the clients are already worried about, because we're adding more of these nutritious foods. And so we're feeling satiated and we feel like, oh, I had enough. I'm not having these cravings or I'm not having these up and downs of little sugars, right? Because I'm having more of a sustained energy. So if we focus on that and then as the patients or the clients are figuring out how to incorporate these other foods that they enjoy, then it creates that great balance. So definitely focusing on that. Even if you're having, let's say, a hamburger, what else can we add to that hamburger? More veggies, or let's add some broccoli or whatever, right? But thinking of these 5 food groups and thinking of how your organs work to detoxify you and adding some of these foods to the meals that you already have. But I also talk to my clients about stress management. It's such a huge one for our overall health and well-being. And so in terms of cleansing, like really finding the triggers and finding where the stress is coming from and trying to work on deep breathing, just really taking 5 minutes out of your day, hopefully throughout the day, to do some really, really deep breathing, because it makes a huge difference. It's such a simple way to lower our cortisol levels, to lower our stress and our fight or flight response, because you're telling your body and your brain, we're okay. Everything's okay. Let's keep moving forward. So that's, in terms of stress, right? That's a simple one. Sleep also plays a huge role when we think about restoring our body, repairing, recovering. Sleep is where it happens, right? Like literally where the magic happens. So, and not only the amount of hours, but the quality of sleep. So oftentimes I talk to my clients about the sleep patterns, right? Like what is your sleep hygiene? And if I have client that is like, oh, I go to bed with my phone and I'm scrolling through social media. So we talk about, okay, how about we do that? But let's put our phones away. Let's put that blue light away at least an hour before we go to bed, just to really help our brains and our bodies to be calm and to start getting ready for bed, to allow that melatonin to increase. And that makes a huge difference, because how we go to bed makes a difference in terms of our quality of sleep and how often we wake up during the night. those are really the main ones when it comes to that, like sleep and stress management, that we can also support our organs to continue to do that detoxifying job.
Now, what are your thoughts on how smoothies can fit into a balanced diet without it maybe becoming a crutch for detoxing? Because it kind of is along the lines of a juice cleanse. But on the flip side, social media is always full of people that like hate on smoothies, and they say that if you blend a banana, like all the nutrients are lost, which is completely nuts. But I'm just curious as to your opinion about smoothies in general, and if you recommend it or support it, and making sure that it's not an unhealthy version of like a detox.
Yeah, I love smoothies because you can absolutely add so many nutrients into a smoothie, right? You can make it really, really nutritious. If we think about, okay, the only way that I can have spinach is in a smoothie because I can't take the spinach. Great. If that is going to be, let's say, a meal that you want to have, right? We want to be able to balance it out with some protein and some healthy fat. So maybe if you want to add a protein powder, if you like, or if you're not a fan of that, okay, how about we add some Greek yogurt, right? Some tofu, because it's also going to give you some extra protein there. A spoonful of peanut butter or any other nut or sea butter for some healthy fats. And let's add some ground flaxseed, right, for some fiber and some omega-3s, and add a handful of spinach, right? That's a great way to do that. Or add a handful of blueberries to support your organ, your cells, right, for antioxidant purposes. Maybe you can make a variation of a ginger smoothie where you add some ginger for inflammation purposes. So smoothies can play such a huge role in being able to add maybe those nutrients that you're not a fan of, or that you're like, I'm not so sure if I want to eat it yet, but I can blend it with something and I can do just fine with that. But it really does come down to making sure that that smoothie is balanced out, balancing it out with something that has protein, something that has fiber, a healthy fat, because it's going to help you to feel satiated for a longer period of time. But it's also going to help that your blood sugars are more stable versus if we have just a fruit smoothie, nothing else. You're going to have a little bit of that sugar spike, and naturally your body is like, hey, we need to bring that down, and we're going to be hungry again. So I think having that balance, right, being able to make these smoothies more wholesome and more balanced can absolutely be a part of another way to support your detoxifying organs.
I completely agree with you. And I love that you pointed out that it's really important to make sure that it's balanced. Like you're not just going to throw banana, strawberries, and water in there, right? Like, yes, you're getting some fruit, but I really love how you encourage other food groups and you point out that satiation and the blood sugar control, really, really important talking points when you're discussing smoothies with your patients. I too am a fan of smoothies. It's probably the only way I get greens. I mean, I eat salads, but I don't eat greens every day. And so if I don't make a smoothie, I'm like, oh my gosh, I probably didn't have any leafy greens today. So it's a really great and easy, quick way to have a great breakfast or a snack. So I too am a supporter of smoothies. Okay. We can't talk about detox without one of my favorite things that I talk about my patients with regarding detox is like, quote, sugar detox. And again, this is sort of thrown around social media and I think inappropriately, but I am on board with lowering our added sugar intake. That's a caveat, right? We say added sugar. Dietitians know that this is the added sugars that we're talking about, not the natural fruit sugar, lactose, a sugar that's in milk. So we're talking about added sugar because we know our society is way exceeding its added sugar intake. And so this is one of the first things I recommend. If they want to detox, I say, okay, you know what? Great. Let's detox from added sugar. How many times do you go to Starbucks in a week? How many sodas do you drink? How many mixed drinks are you having on the weekend? So those types of things I highly encourage to detox. So what are your thoughts on sugar detox and what are some ways that you encourage your patients to minimize their added sugar intake?
Yeah, I love that question because you're absolutely right. The amount of sugar that we consume, it's high. And you'll be surprised that you can find sugar in pretty much anything that you buy. It's so insane. And so I think focusing on something that is pretty doable and simple, right? Like asking the questions, okay, let's figure out where your added sugar is coming from. And so if, like you mentioned, okay, I go to Starbucks every single day and I do 2 or 3 pumps. I think what really, really helps is being aware of it, like really looking at the numbers. And a lot of my clients can be like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this drink had 60 grams of sugar. Okay, yeah, that's more than we need for the entire day. So we know that that extreme restriction or cold turkey, let's just eliminate it, might not work. But if we're like, okay, I do 3 pumps at Starbucks. Okay, how about if we work on doing 2 pumps, right? Maybe 1 pump. And then slowly kind of adjusting your taste buds to that, because your taste buds are used to that amount of sugar, right? And so as you are making these changes, your taste buds will change in about 15 days or so. So you'll get new taste buds. And whatever changes you have made to your nutrition, they're going to be used to that now. So working towards that, right, it can help. When it comes to sugary drinks, I usually ask my clients, okay, tell me why you like the sugary drink. Is it the carbonation? Is it the flavor? Is it the sugar? And so depending on what the answer is, if they say, oh, it's the carbonation. Okay, how about we explore maybe a sparkling water with a splash of natural 100% juice? Or we can do more of these functional drinks like Olipop that are not going to have so much of the added sugar. And you're still going to get the carbonation, right? Is it the sugar? Okay, let's see how many you're drinking now a day. And then maybe let's work on decreasing that a little bit. So it's really going to be about what the client is ready to do. Because if we say as providers, oh, you need to eliminate XYZ, what the client or the patient is going to do is be like, well, I can't do that. Like, I'm not going to follow that. So it really has to be, again, the model of readiness for change, right? Like, where are these patients at? Are they in action where they're like, you know what, I'm tired of XYZ, I'm ready to do it. So yes, I am going to only have 1 sugary drink from now on, right? Or whatever. So creating like these realistic goals that the patient says, I can absolutely do that. That's where the long-term change is going to happen. So yeah, I think I went off tangents, but
No, I think that is so helpful. And it's such a great reminder when we're educating patients because, yeah, would we like our patients to be consuming the least amount of added sugars possible? For sure. But like you said, it isn't everything. So, if you're buying canned tomato sauce, it's going to be in there. If you're using dressings, it's going to be in there. So some of those things, not necessarily that they're unavoidable, but for the average American who is trying to use some convenience foods, we have to allot that and understand like you're probably getting 10, 15 grams already just from like things that are mixed in. And if you're also then, like you said, having 60 grams from Starbucks and your sodas and things like that, I like to think of added sugars as like budgeting and helping the patient say like, hey, let's start a little high, but lower than when you're at, but you've got 50 grams that you can spend in a day. Where do you want to spend this? And they can really then prioritize, like me personally, I really like my coffee light and sweet. And so that is where I get the majority of my added sugar. I'm not really consuming a lot of cookies and sweets at the end of the day. Majority comes from coffee because that is my like non-negotiable. I've budgeted for that. But I think that's a helpful thing to educate patients on. Like, hey, you can have a little bit and still enjoy, but let's budget it and see where we can make these small changes. And I completely agree with you that starting small is better than just telling them, hey, you have to avoid sugar altogether. That is not helpful at all. Leo, this has been such a really eye-opening and helpful conversation. And I know you have your own podcast and you educate patients on great nutrition tips. So why don't you share where my listeners can hang out with you and learn more about you?
So my podcast is called Simple Nutrition Insights. I do an episode every week. And you can also find me on Instagram at nutrition_with_Leonila, Leonila. You can also find me on LinkedIn. Just type my name, Leonila Campos, and you can find me there too. But yeah, those are the main platforms where you'll be able to find me.
Now, if you've enjoyed her beautiful Hispanic accent, she also does a few episodes in Spanish. So if you have any Hispanic patients and you think they would benefit from learning from her in their native language, definitely go check out her podcast. And I will link to all of that down in the show notes. Well, Leonila, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate the gift of your time. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, everybody. Take care, Colleen.
All right, now it's time for my nutrition notes. But first, the free resource I promised. If you're looking for a simple handout that you can share with your patients, or you just want a few new ideas yourself on how to increase your fiber and protein intake, head over to examroomnutrition.com/focus and grab my free guide called High Protein, High Fiber Choices and Recipes. It's packed with easy, delicious ideas to help boost 2 of the most important nutrients a lot of Americans are missing. Okay, now let's talk about why this matters. especially when patients come in asking about detoxes. So the real detox prescription doesn't come from a tea, a juice cleanse, or a 7-day challenge. It comes from two boring but brilliant basics: fiber and fluids. So I want to linger here a little bit and give you some more practical tips you can share with your patients. So let's start with fiber. Not surprisingly, when micronutrient levels are low, fiber usually is too. And the USDA reports that a staggering 95% of Americans don't get enough fiber. We're supposed to aim for 25 to 38 grams per day, 25 for women, 38 for men, but the average intake is about 15 grams a day. Yikes. Now you might find yourself, like me, telling your patients to eat more fruits and veggies about 20 times a day. But is that working? So let's be real. Even most of us as medical professionals don't hit that goal every day. So instead of just telling patients what to do, help them figure out how to do it. So here are some quick ideas that you can share. Top yogurt, cereal, or oatmeal with sliced fruit or frozen berries. You can toss berries into pancakes or waffles. Maybe add apple chunks or grapes to chicken salad. You can sneak in veggies into sandwiches like lettuce, tomato, cucumber, avocado slices. It's also great to keep cut up veggies ready to grab in the fridge, like carrots, snap peas, and bell peppers. Have your patient play with their pizza toppings. Have them add spinach, mushrooms, broccoli, or zucchini. Maybe they can mix chopped spinach or cauliflower into soups, pasta dishes, or casseroles. And lastly, make fruit the dessert. Top a banana with a little bit of peanut butter or chopped nuts. Now, if you want even more snack and meal ideas, remember to grab the free guide at examroomnutrition.com/focus. Okay, let's move to the second part of your patient's detox prescription: fluids. Fiber and water are a team, remember that. Without enough fluids, a high fiber diet can actually cause more constipation and discomfort, which isn't exactly the detox your patient was hoping for. An easy hydration formula is to suggest at least 64 ounces of water a day, or about half of their body weight in ounces if you want something easier to remember. So for a 150-pound patient, that's about 75 ounces a day. But remember, this needs to be individualized based on their gender, their age, their physical activity, location, all of those things. So make sure you personalize it to your patient. But here are a few quick hydration tips that you can suggest. They should carry a reusable water bottle with them everywhere. When water is out of sight, it's out of mind. So keeping it right in front of them is a good visual cue to drink more water. Maybe they need to set phone reminders to drink every few hours. Have them doll up their water by adding a splash of fruit or cucumbers. I like to encourage them to drink a glass of water before their meals and snacks, or while they're waiting for something, like while they're waiting for their coffee to brew. Also remind them that fluids can be found in foods as well. So high fluid foods are watermelon, cucumbers, strawberries, celery, pineapple, peaches, and zucchini. So have them snack on those throughout the day to increase their total fluid intake. And lastly, remind them that milk and herbal teas, as long as they're unsweetened, do count toward fluid intake. The bottom line is, if you want to help your patients detox in a way that's safe, evidence-based, and sustainable, focus on boosting fiber and fluids. It's really simple, it's really powerful, and it actually works. So the next time a patient mentions a detox, give them the real prescription: more plants, more water, and of course, less stress. Don't forget to grab the cheat sheet, and if you do, I would love to hear which tip or recipe was most helpful. Just send me a DM on Instagram at examroomnutrition. All right, that's all I've got for you today. So as always, let's continue to make our patients healthier, one exam room at a time. I'll see you next time.